I look out into the crowd, I just wish that the families of gun violence in this city got this much attention, because that's who really deserves the amount of attention that we're giving to this particular incident.
All right, our power panel is here to discuss the big picture in the Jussie Smollett case as we get a mountain of new information from police and prosecutors today. Democratic strategist Spencer Critchley, Daily Caller contributing editor Derek Hunter, and former NRCC Communications Director Matt Gorman. Nice to have all of you with us tonight, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so you heard what the police superintendent there said, that, listen, there are people who are victims of gun violence every day in the city. They don't get 1/1000th of this kind of information and attention on them. Some stats that were put together, the Washington Examiner under the headline, Chicago police grappled with violent crime wave as they investigated Jussie Smollett claims. They say at least 20 murders and 134 sexual assaults were reported in Chicago during the 23-day period. It's according to the Chicago Police Department's weekly crime stats, Derek.
That's what's so ridiculous about this, Shannon. Every weekend in Chicago, the entire roster of a football team is shot. And nobody hears about it. Nobody talks about it. People use it as an example. And that's usually the only way Chicago is ever mentioned, is it's an example of the things media don't cover. On the other networks, it might as well not exist. There might as well be a big hole down at the end of Lake Michigan. But all of those lives matter. I lived for 13 years in Baltimore. Unless it fits a certain intersectional framework that the left has created of the victim and the perp, it might as well not have happened. And it's really, really sad. And it devalues human life.
Yeah, and Spencer, I mean, we keep track of a lot of what's happening in Chicago week by week, and as things come in, and many, if not most, of the victims there of violence are minorities themselves. So why does it take a case like this to actually get everyone's attention about what's going on in Chicago?
Well, I think it's an excellent question, and I really agree with the police superintendent. I've done quite a lot of work with police departments and also with violence reduction efforts. And what's been going on in Chicago is a tragedy, but there's also a lot of hope there. There's some excellent work being done in violence reduction in Chicago, and I agree, you don't hear about it nearly enough. You hear, once again, the sensationalized stuff about the gang violence, which is terrible. However, in many ways, it's getting better in neighborhoods where they're applying modern methods of violence reduction. It's an important story. We don't hear about it, and unfortunately, I agree, we get distracted by sensation again and again. And the Smollett case has celebrity, gender identity, race, and political division all wrapped up into one explosive ball.
Yeah, and knowing the problems there in Chicago, Matt, that was one of the things the police superintendent said as well, too, that he was so angry that a man who is a member of these classes that need protection and need to have a voice, that he would then leverage those things to actually gain attention for himself when there are actual victims out there.
Absolutely. We mentioned, how many resources do you think detectives, beat cops, investigative tools were taken off, as we said, the gang violence, the crime, the shootings, what have you, just to investigate this hoax? And I think, as you mentioned, Derek, a good point, intersectionally it touched every single box. And I think a lot, some in the media, but certainly celebrities and political candidates, folks whose narrative they wanted to promote, it fit for them, and it became cannon fodder of sorts in a broader culture war.
The thing that makes it so appealing to the media was the thing that helped bring it down, is Jussie Smollett went down the victimhood buffet and picked a piece of every perp and every perfect narrative piece, and he had a full plate. So it was everything in one story, and I thought, well, that's just a little bit too convenient.
A lot of
and it started to fall apart. It was too many pieces.
Well, something that's not getting as much attention, although you've seen it probably here on Fox today and a limited number of other outlets, is this attack on UC Berkeley's campus that was caught on a cell phone camera. Dana Lash talked about this, and she said 3 reports this week, all on video, of people attacked for wearing red MAGA hats. Another kid punched by a man at UC Berkeley for being conservative. Just this week, Jussie Smollett wanted to exploit this ridiculousness for a bigger paycheck. Spencer, what about that? I mean, we're hoping that the person in this video is brought to justice, because there are good shots of his face, and apparently, you know, you always want to know the rest of the story, but there was a punch thrown there.
And we do want to know the rest of the story, still in the Smollett case, and certainly in this one. And I would point out that if it's not okay to rush to judgment with the Smollett case or the Covington Catholic kids, it shouldn't be just what the doctor ordered to rush to judgment in this case. If it did happen the way it looks, of course it's indefensible. And even though I'm a part of a Stanford family, though, I will come to the defense of Berkeley. This is not representative of Berkeley overall, as I think was shown by the chancellor's very strong statement against this kind of intolerance, if indeed this is what happened. It's absolutely unacceptable.
They usually
no
just
matter
throw
who does
garbage
something
cans
like
through
that.
windows and set things on fire. It's
Well,
let's not pretend Berkeley is utopia.
Not representative. John Yoo, for example, is a professor of law at UC Berkeley.
And I don't think, Matt, that we see him throwing any garbage cans around.
No,
but this is a campus that
You
in
don't
many
see
ways,
you don't see Robert Reich either.
No, you don't. And
He's
this
about
is
the
a
size of
campus. This is a campus where there has been so much fighting for
Yes.
freedom of speech, and we know what the principle is. It's not to protect speech that you find inoffensive, because then we wouldn't need it.
Oh, I mean, I can go down a list of how many conservative speakers tried to come to Berkeley and were disinvited because of this. The tolerance only extends to every other type of group unless you're conservative. And I think, imagine, you know, how quickly this would go viral if this were a liberal student, say at Liberty University. This thing would be going viral within minutes. It'd be Covington Catholic all over again. And the reason you're not seeing it all over Twitter is because, again, it's Berkeley, it's a conservative student.
All right, we got to leave it there. But as a Liberty alum, I will assure you, people do not get punched in the face for wearing the wrong hat there. They should never happen. To our power panel tonight, Matt, Spencer, and Derek, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, President Trump's reported pick to lead a new panel on climate change, invoking